The thing that is going to give you the energy that you need is recovery. And I worked with an Olympic athlete who was in a 2016 Olympics, and she said something in one of our meetings one time that I will never forget, which is, I trained hard, but I rested harder. And for entrepreneurs, rest doesn't necessarily look like sitting on the couch or doing nothing. Rest and recovery looks like the thing that is going to release the stress and give you the energy so that you don't burn out.
Welcome to Season 3 of Beyond the Business Plan, the podcast for burned out professionals and entrepreneurs who know there's more to life than just hitting the next revenue goal. I'm LeAnn Lyon, founder and chief joy officer of joyminder.com. I'm a private money broker and creator of the Sailing System, SAILING system, for designing a business and life you actually love. Each week this season, I'll be talking with guests and sharing stories about what happens after the business plan works. Money, real estate, legacy, faith, and whole person success. If you're ready to join the sail setters and chart your own course beyond burnout, hit that follow or subscribe so you catch every episode. If you've ever wondered how elite performers keep winning without burning out, this episode is going to shift the way you think about your work and business. My guest today hit full-on burnout while running a successful practice, and instead of rebuilding with bubble baths and less hustle, she rebuilt using the same performance principles elite athletes use to stay sharp under pressure. Now she helps high-achieving entrepreneurs and professionals build that kind of mental fitness so that they can handle high stakes without sacrificing health, relationships, or calling. Who is this transformation artist who helps those feeling called to grow and go beyond their current business plan? Let's find out. Emily Heird, are you out there?
Good morning, LeAnn. Hello.
Good morning. So good to see you. I was so impressed when we first met, and we actually met through another podcast. Oh, wait, that was your podcast.
Yes, it was.
How fun.
Yeah.
It's just, I love how things get brought together, and I do a lot of other podcasts, and I was not the subject of your podcast. You were, and now you are again today. So thank you for being here. It was so much fun to meet you, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation.
Cool. Well, the person listening today might look successful on the outside, but inside they're running on fumes, wondering how long they can keep this up. I have been there. I'm really grateful I'm not at that point right now. But can you take us back to that season of your own, running a multi-site practice? What did it look like for you day to day at that time?
Certainly. Yeah, so one thing about burnout is it's not something that happens overnight. It is a slow buildup or a slow burn, as they say, of years and years and years of kind of operating the same way. And for me, when I hit that wall with burnout, I had an incident with my daughter, actually, and it's kind of one of those moments in life that just like smacks you across the face, and something has to change. There is no continuing on that path. So for years it looked like, yeah, I was a therapist, so taking care of my clients. I was a CEO building a group private practice, so business expansion, supervising, hiring, marketing, all the 18 hats that an entrepreneur wears. At that time, I had a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old. My husband has a very demanding job, so I like to say I was doing everything for the business and on the home front, including mowing the lawn. And so very much these patterns of putting everyone before myself and not doing a single thing to take care of myself. So yeah, on the outside it looks, very successful. Things are going well, but on the inside, I would describe it as, extremely depleted. Um, Feeling like, there is just no energy. It's not an exhausted day. It is operating with exhaustion and just kind of willing yourself to go through the motions or putting on the fake presentation that you have the energy and the joy for what you're doing, which is exhausting in itself to pretend. There was a lot of resentment I was carrying around and stress and anxiety worrying about things. So you can very much present this one face and then on the inside have a completely different experience.
Wow. When you brought that up about, not diving into what happened with your daughter, but in my situation, now you brought me back to a previous career that I held that was the catalyst, where I had things pulled together. I have my partner, my husband and I are
Mhm.
great partners. We're really yin yang. We both contribute very well. Well, I think honestly, he contributes more than I do to the home front. That's just truth.
Yeah.
But, as we were raising children, both of us were involved, but it was often the mom's duty to do things. And when our daughter was injured once, and then later, even more so, when my husband was injured,
Mm.
that was the one that really just threw everything. I suddenly didn't have my we owned a business together.
Hmm.
Suddenly I didn't have the person who was ordering supplies, doing payroll. That was a whole, it's really another conversation
Hmm.
than we're
Hmm.
talking about here, but
Yeah.
yeah, the stress level was through the roof, and we had one graduating high school and preparing for college. It was a
Hmm.
mess.
Hmm.
So, very similar. But you didn't rebuild with traditional self care. You chose a performance model instead. So, what led you there, and what clicked for you as a licensed professional counselor watching your own burnout?
Hmm. Yeah, so if when we look on the internet and the recommendations for how to handle burnout, which by the way, at the time, back in 2019, I didn't even know the word burnout. It was before it had really taken off in popularity with COVID and everything we all went through at that time. So I wasn't familiar with the term burnout to the extent that I am now. When I was in graduate school, they would tell us things like, oh, make sure to take care of yourself. But like, what does that actually mean from a practical standpoint? And, here I was as a therapist talking to my clients about how to take care of themselves and stress management. And I wasn't putting any of those things into practice. Um, so, typical recommendations are things like, traditional self-care, like you said, bubble baths and more time off and go to therapy. But I knew from my research, my training, my specialty in sports psychology, and kind of the athletic side of mental performance, how to perform at high levels, along with the neuroscience of what I know from mental health, that what I really needed was truly effective ways to release stress from my body. Burnout happens because it is a accumulation of chronic unmanaged stress over time. And the techniques that I was using to quote unquote manage stress or get stress relief were things like that a lot of us do. We, have a glass of wine when we come home from work. We kind of zone out and decompress watching Netflix, staying up late, procrastinating, not going to bed. All these things that we think are self-care are actually working against us. And so I knew that what I really needed was essentially recovery time.
Mm.
So I started the next day with exercise and movement because from a return on investment from your time and energy, the one thing that's going to be better for your mental health and your physical health than pretty much anything under the sun is exercise. So I started the next day. I took my daughter out on walks in her stroller after Work, I just committed to like 20 minutes at a time. Typically we can fall into patterns of, all right, I'm gonna sign up for a marathon, or I'm going to, you know, do boot camps 5 days a week at 5 a.m. in the morning, which is just unrealistic when you are very burned out. And so you have to start slowly and build up. And it's in doing these very important things for recovery, like exercise and sleep, then you start to gain more energy and build your capacity. And more importantly, you are releasing stress from your body and giving your brain the neurotransmitters that it needs to be healthier, and the negative chatter and the anxiety and depressive feelings decrease.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Because I broke my leg this past year. I've gone through all the physical therapy. I'm doing quite well. But, while recovering, I often didn't exercise. It was impossible or
Hmm.
just inconvenient at very least. And then just yesterday, I started following something called a power list where I'm writing down 5 things to get done. And as I wrote down my first list this
Hmm.
morning, I was like, you know what? Every day, one of my 5 is going to be some sort of movement. Take a
Yeah.
walk, go to a class, hit the gym, whatever it is. It doesn't, I
Hmm.
can just one thing. So I literally cannot call the day a win if
Hmm.
all 5 are not done. And that means every day I have to do something physical. So it ties right
Excellent.
into what you just said. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Yay, me. Well, now you're a certified mental performance mastery coach. What a great
Hmm.
title.
Hmm.
So, for somebody new to that term, how do you explain mental performance in simple, practical language?
So, in simple, practical language, you will hear elite athletes talk about the importance of their mental game. And those athletes who are out on the field, everyone at that level has the same amount of talent. If we look at Olympians, professional athletes, I mean, even in college athletics, they work on the mental game. But it's really, many of them will talk about how training their mental game is what gives them their edge on the field. And they incorporate training this part of their um, skill set just as routinely and regularly as they do with their strength and conditioning and their nutrition. It is part of their package. So when I look at uh, the professionals that I work with, I call them cognitive athletes. And the goal is for them to learn essentially the psychological skills that you're not taught in school to meet the demands of the performance environment. And it comes along with training these mental skills that are going to help you or them be able to perform well in their work environment, manage stress, not buy into the hustle culture, incorporate recovery, and be able to have quality relationships with their family. So it's training the missing piece, which is the psychological component to success.
Well, we're going to talk about training your mind like an athlete in just a moment. But right now, I want to bring up something that is a sponsor of our podcast here, Beyond the Business Plan. You've heard it before if you've been following the show, whyilovemycoffee.com, because this is actually one of my sneaky secrets for performance. There are several different types of coffee, whether you like it to, be rich and creamy or black. I drink it black. There is something about this coffee that is very different. There's a lot of hype on the internet right now about mushroom coffee, but it's all recent stuff. If you really look at the ingredients, how much mushroom is in it and what does it really taste like? I've been drinking this coffee for over 10 years and I noticed an immediate shift when I switched to it. I noticed a shift in my skin. I noticed a shift in my energy. I no longer had the like mid-afternoon, oh my goodness, I have to take a nap. I just had energy. I woke up well. Went to sleep well. I sleep through the night like a champ. this coffee makes a difference. So if you want to learn more about how you can up your performance with something you're already doing, please go visit whyilovemycoffee.com and you can up your game as well. Emily, I have a question for you. Were you an
Mhm.
athlete? What
Uh,
sport?
yeah, so my primary sport is golf.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was an athlete as well.
Hmm.
Not always shared here, but I was a synchronized swimmer. Came
Ooh.
into it by accident. I was a
Hmm.
gymnast as a kid, and then I was a swimmer as a kid. And then one day, one of my swim team members said, "Hey, are you going to try out for synchronized swimming today?" Or she just said synchro. I'm like,
Hmm.
"What's that?" And I went on to going to the Junior Olympic Regionals 4 times.
Wow, congratulations. Not many people on earth can say they were a synchronized swimmer. So that's
Synchronized swimmer, Junior Olympic Regional,
Junior Olympics.
second place at the regionals all four
Hmm.
years, which means I did not go on to
Congratulations.
nationals.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I think
Yeah.
that would have been a distraction for the rest of my life, but I really loved it. What a great sport. But we used a
Hmm.
lot of mental training. I just remember sitting in classes and
Hmm.
mentally just going over the routine, over the routine. We developed ways to use our fingers to represent things we were doing. Or,
Hmm.
I would just sit there in class and I'd be ticking and today people would be sending me to a psychiatrist probably. But just practicing my head turns and ups and downs and different things with my shoulders in class.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's part of a mental game, but I think you're talking about something a little different. So,
Actually, no. I mean, the visualization, the mental imagery piece is a core component of one of the mental performance pillars that I work on with my clients because there are so many applications to that technique that you can put into practice for confidence building, for prep for high stakes moments like board meetings, trials, networking events. Shortening the time with habit formation. There are a lot of different applications to what you're talking about, which is mental imagery and visualization.
great. Well, let's dig into that a little bit more. So, what does it look like for a busy entrepreneur or professional to train their mind like an athlete in a normal week, not on a retreat, but in actual real life?
Yeah, so when I work with clients, I start by giving them a couple of assessments. So number one, they take a mental performance assessment, so we get a baseline indicator of which of these pillars are they already strong? Are their strengths? For example, maybe someone's mindset is already a strength and they rank high on that, but focus and awareness is a really low number. So we get a baseline assessment. I also have them do a burnout indicator to find out, are they experiencing burnout and which of the three domains are they experiencing burnout in? So we can start to address that as well. And then we combine that with their goals and their vision that they are moving towards when it comes to not only their business success and career success, but also their personal success. How do they want their life to feel? How do they want their relationships to be? A lot of my clients will come to me saying things like, my wife wants me to be more present at home, so that would be a goal that we put on there. Or I want to be more confident in my leadership, or I want to not overthink so much. So it starts out with these assessments and setting our goal, like where are we aiming for? And then based on the results of the mental performance assessment, we decide, I guide, like which one of these pillars are we going to focus on first? If we make changes in this one pillar first, then there will be a downstream effect from the others. Let's say routines and habits of excellence is something that needs attention. I would say that that's the pillar that I started with, and with a number of my clients, that is one that we start with as well, because a foundation of being able to have sustainable success is having the physical and mental energy, the capacity to handle the stress, the allostatic load. And so we're looking at things like exercise, movement, sleep, nutrition, hydration, these like this foundation that we have to strengthen. So what it looks like to train, it would be I'll give you an example of a client who just started a couple weeks ago. He is a senior executive in an oil and gas company in Malaysia, and he his focus and awareness score was very low. As with all of us, most of us at this point in our society, distractions, you know, Teams chat interruptions, people coming into his office, just the focus to stay on task is not there. And so we set up a plan to work on distraction control and building in focused blocks of work. We talked about logging off a Teams chat. We talked about the architecture of his workday and also changing the architecture of the workday for his team so that everyone is doing deep work in the morning and then having meetings in the afternoon. And so that's an example of some strategies that we would look at to start to strengthen the muscles around focus and awareness. And then I have other tools to help him build his awareness skill for when he recognizes that he's off task with focus or off task out of what I would call ideal performance state. Maybe something has annoyed him. Maybe he's tired and is fatigued and he needs a cognitive reset. And so he's strengthened the ability to have the awareness to then take a reset, kind of implement this reset routine and get back to baseline.
Yeah.
So that's an example of how we would train that one specific skill.
Wow, that is so cool. Yeah, at Joyminder, we have something called the sailing system. It sounds like you kind of have a system or a platform as well. It's very cool.
Mhm.
And when we prepared for the show, I asked you, who do you serve? Which stages do you serve people at? And you said that you love to work with people who are at the L stage, launching into the unknown, integrating and adapting, where we're refining processes and habits, navigating the storms, the resilience, and adjusting to challenges. And my favorite stage, the grow and go beyond stage. That is actually the name of my new book, too, Grow and Go
Oh.
Beyond. It's actually not about the sailing system, which is kind of funny, although it's integrated in. It's more about the private money brokering side of my business as well. So let's talk about your Grow and Go Beyond season in your own business. How do you personally grow and go beyond right now? What edges are you working on in your season right now?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think this answer would be different if I had stayed with my private practice. So in 2020, I started my coaching business. So I had my private practice and my coaching business. And in 2023, like it got to be where I had to make a decision point of, which one did I want to pursue fully. So I sold my private practice in 2023, and I've been doing my coaching business full time since 2023. So for me, in my business right now, it looks like maybe, still a lot of marketing, visibility. I do speaking engagements. I work with law firms and other professional organizations to do workplace trainings on all kinds of different topics related to the intersection of performance and mental health. It looks like my podcast, and really trying to streamline and build sustainable pipelines of clients and work is the stage that I am in.
But I also notice you shifted from an in-person practice to a virtual practice.
Mhm.
Is that true?
That
S-
is true. Yep.
And what precipitated that decision?
Well, one of the reasons why I switched from therapy to coaching, one of many reasons, was because I wanted to work outside of the state of Tennessee. I wanted to work with clients all over and didn't want to have that limitation to only the state that I lived in. And coaching allows you to do that. So I that was the primary driver behind doing more virtual work. But then also from an accessibility standpoint, I can do like I did a virtual presentation training for a law firm in California last week, and I didn't have to go anywhere. So while I love being in the room and engaging with people on site at trainings, there's also positives to doing virtual trainings. So I love the flexibility of it.
Yeah, I truly enjoy the in-person. There's a lot of interaction you can have via
Mhm.
Zoom and other platforms, but there is a totally different energy when you're in a room. And I'm personally training for some on-stage things coming up. Very
Great.
excited about those things. And it's fun when you can do the balance. One of my goals is to live on a boat with my husband and to travel. By the way, we plan to come to Tennessee
Yeah,
by boat from Minnesota. Not
that is
everybody
awesome.
realizes, yeah, just exactly how interconnected and how far you can go by boat inside the United States. It's
Hmm.
pretty cool. But yeah, that's why my businesses are being developed to be online as well and to give us that freedom. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are going for that, the three types of freedom: time freedom, location freedom, and oh, yeah, that financial freedom piece.
Hmm.
I'm just going to ask you, which comes first of those three?
Which comes first? I would say right now in this season of life, it's probably time freedom,
Okay.
financial freedom being a close second. Location, not so important because I have a 9-year-old. So, um,
Yep.
but
So unless you're
eventually,
homeschooling.
no, nope, nope. Um, so eventually, like with speaking, building that out. So I am traveling more. I love the idea of using that as a conduit to be able to travel all over the United States and even the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's so cool. Yeah, looking back, I kind of wish I had done some homeschooling more so, but hey, take vacations when they're cheap, not expensive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. My
Not
daughter
be,
is too social to
yeah.
not to be at home with me all day.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Blessings to those that homeschool and blessings to those that know they shouldn't, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason that is. So, well, let's talk again about our listeners here. So, this is for the listener who is still in that demanding corporate job. They're the professional, quietly thinking, though, about starting a business. What is one mental performance shift that they can make? Ooh, I just got tingles and chills everywhere. I can't wait for your answer. Before they ever leave that role.
So I would say one sh essential shift comes down to mindset. How you are thinking about this adventure of entrepreneurship is essential because it will test you day in and day out. It is not an easy thing. I work with a number of people, particularly lawyers, who are also entrepreneurs. They have their own firms, whether it is a solo firm or a small to medium-sized firm. And being the owner, the driver of everything, you have to have the intrinsic motivation, that like deep down why you want to embark on this adventure. And then your daily mindset is extremely important. You have to learn how to, navigate thoughts of doubt and, like you said, weather storms, that resilience piece, and it's all kind of how you frame it. And so if I was to recommend one essential mindset shift for listeners out there, it would be to view stressors in general, but especially the climbing of the mountain, or if we want to use your metaphor, the sailing of the boat, as a challenge rather than a stress. Because physiologically, when we think of something as a task that is difficult, that it's too hard, that this is a big s- stress in my life, then that is what kind of starts to pump cortisol through our body and activate the fight or flight response. Whereas if we look at something as though it's a challenge and something I'm going to be able to rise to the occasion and meet that challenge, kind of like, if you're standing at the bottom of the mountain looking up at the top, viewing it as a challenge and why do I want to get to the top? That creates excitement and adrenaline and what's called eustress, eustress, which is positive stress. So, really looking at things as a challenge rather than like an obstacle you can't overcome is going to be an essential mindset shift.
Yeah. And I've said it on this show, I've said it on many of my shows. Just having that focus, that ultimate why I'm doing this
Hmm.
makes the day to day go so much easier. Like, yeah, I
Yep.
have those 5 things I have to do today, and I want to get them done because I want to see that future version of myself in my life. It
Absolutely.
definitely helps. So, coming up soon, we have a summit, and I'm so excited that you are going to be part of this. Can you give us a little preview as to what you will be sharing during the summit?
Absolutely. And I'm very much looking forward to participating in this summit. And what I'm going to be sharing is uh, what I consider to be the antidote to burnout. So a lot of times as entrepreneurs, when you own your own business, it is very easy to be working on the business all the time, to be thinking about the business all the time, to be carrying the stress and the weight and the load of the business all of the time. I saw this with myself, I see it with my clients, and this idea of taking time for recovery or taking time away from the business feels impossible. But the thing that is going to give you the energy that you need, the physical energy, but also the cognitive energy, because remember, as an entrepreneur, you are thinking all day, you're making decisions. Your brain is your primary muscle for success on the field of play. And so your brain has to stay in top shape as an entrepreneur. And the thing that is going to give you the energy that you need is recovery. And I worked with an Olympic athlete who was in the 2016 Olympics, and she said something in one of our meetings one time that I will never forget, which is, I trained hard, but I rested harder. And for entrepreneurs, rest doesn't necessarily look like sitting on the couch or doing nothing. Rest looks like, and recovery looks like the thing that is going to release the stress and give you the energy so that you don't burn out. And that's what I'm going to be talking about at the summit.
Excellent. I can't wait. So, listeners, go get your free ticket. The link is below. Just scroll down there, click the link, and join us. You can attend all 3 days. You can get the recordings. We actually have 4 days and great speakers, all of them. But Emily will be one of our speakers. You'll definitely want to catch what she just shared. We are going to do a quick speed round. Okay, Emily? We're going to have some
Okay.
fun. So quick, short answers, but and then we have one final question, and then we're wrapped up for today. But coming back for the summit. So speed round. Here we go. What is one mental performance habit you personally won't skip, even on a crazy day?
That would be nutrition.
Oh, good one. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. What is one elite athlete mindset shift you wish every entrepreneur would borrow?
Radical belief in yourself.
Mm, love it. Yay. Finish this sentence. Sustainable high performance starts with
Your mission and your vision for why you are doing what you do.
mission and vision. Love that. And let's just wrap this up with this question. So, what is one small mental fitness habit someone can start this week to begin moving from survival mode towards sustainable high performance?
I would say making sure that you have that you are getting enough sleep. Sleep is something that we often sacrifice, and it impacts every and the coffee, right? I used to run on coffee, 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 and more coffee, and hardly any sleep. And that is probably one of the number one contributors to why I burned out.
Yeah, I agree. I used
Yeah.
to, and by the way, time. Can we just talk about time for a minute? I
Yep.
used my when I had a manufacturing company, the closest coffee shop was a 10-minute drive away.
Yeah.
And so I was stopping at a coffee shop on my way to work. Granted, we could make coffee, but it was just not as good. I was a snob about the coffee.
Hmm.
So, I could make coffee at work, but I'd stop, I'd spend my $4, $5, whatever, go to
Yeah.
work, and then need to leave once or twice a day. 10 minutes there, 10 minutes getting whatever, 10 minutes back. You add up all that
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
I was robbing my business and my family of about 2.5 to 3 hours of my time per week
Yeah. Yeah.
so that I could go get coffee.
Just
And
for
when
the
I
coffee.
discovered
Yeah.
this coffee, it was just a mind, but also changing when. Like I used to have a
Mm.
cutoff of 2 p.m. Even
Hmm.
with this coffee, it was fine. I didn't really have sleep in it. But I recently decided, no, I'm going to more or less most days cut it off at noon and
Hmm.
limit it to, this is a big cup, but limit it to 2 cups, maybe three.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a big
paying
deal.
attention to how you are spending your time is extremely important as an entrepreneur. So, time management and organization is one of my pillars of mental performance.
Yeah.
So just thinking about that, like how am I spending my time? Where is it going? Is it giving me that return on investment? And also knowing that coffee doesn't actually give us energy. It just suppresses feelings of tiredness.
Right.
So,
Although some mushrooms actually do increase performance.
well, there we go.
There
Yeah,
is
it's
some
that
there.
special blend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what there's one here that does actually improve vasodilation, which means more oxygen. If you have
Hmm.
more oxygen in your brain, does that help?
Absolutely. Yep. That keeps the prefrontal cortex online and in control. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
validating my why I love my coffee. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, for our audience, if you've been listening today thinking, that's me. I'm performing at a high level, but it's costing me way more than I'm willing to pay. I hope that Emily's story and tools gave you permission to do this differently. You are allowed to build a joyful, sustainable life and business that does not require burning yourself down to keep everything else standing. So if this conversation helped you, share it with one person who's also carrying a lot and might need to hear that there's another way. And if you want to stay close to the future stories and strategies like this, be sure to follow or subscribe so you catch every upcoming episode. Emily's contact information is below. So is the information for the summit. So is the information for the coffee, since we talked about that a lot today. And I just want to say thank you, Emily, for bringing your heart, your honesty, and your mental performance wisdom to Beyond the Business Plan today.
Thank you for having me, LeAnn. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Keep spreading the joy, keep leading with heart, and I will catch you on the next wave of success. Thanks for sailing with me on Beyond the Business Plan, the podcast. If this episode helped you as a sales setter, the best next step is to follow the show and share it with one friend who's ready to move beyond burnout into a more aligned way of doing business and life. If you want to go deeper, join me live at the next Beyond the Business Plan Summit online, happening May 17th through 19th. You'll hear from experts on profit, real estate, legacy, and whole person planning, all through the lens of the sailing system, which you can download at joyminder.com. You can save your spot and get more details and download the sailing system at joyminder.com. Until next time, keep setting your course and adjusting your sails beyond the business plan.